the weekly show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David finishes his conversation with Todd Pipes of Deep Blue Something.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the weekly show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight's show, we've got a very special guest. He was one of the key men behind the creation of one of the most iconic songs of the 90s in many circles, and whose band would go on to tour the entire globe as a result of the success of that song. If you're of a certain age, you already kind of know which song I'm talking about. Here to chat about the history of his band and their mega hit, Breakfast at Tiffany's, is Todd Pipes of Deep Blue Something. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Well, and it's still got that hook. I mean, to this day, even to this day, if somebody plays that song in a pub, you know, it's everybody singing it like Sweet Caroline. You know what I mean? It's like American Pie. It's like everybody
somehow
is.
Or other, it carries it.
Yeah.
So my goal that I'd set out worked, and I could tell the first time we played it, hey, this works. And I mean, years went by before anyone mentioned or noticed or questioned, hey man, this song doesn't rhyme like at all. Like it's nothing. And it was actually a guy in another band in England, and he was kind of reviewing the song hits of the week or something. He was like, man, I don't know about this song. It doesn't rhyme. And he's the only person that ever noticed. I thought that people were going to be like, hey, this guy's clever here, because he has hidden a whole bunch and nobody ever noticed. So, oh well.
Now, if I recall correctly, that song wasn't really one that stuck out for you guys at first. I think you said before it was like number 4 and number 5 on your live set list. Not a prime song, right?
It was just another new song, you know. Because we had been together for a little while. We were already selling out places. This in our minds at the time, this was just another song. Hey, it's fun to play. Well, people seem to like it. We'll put it in the set, you know. But it wasn't our closing number, you know. But people did from the very first night we played it. I could tell, you know, oh, okay, people like that one. We'll keep it in there, because we would just throw away songs if they weren't working through the set. And I kind of I look back on that and wish we had recorded things more, because there are some songs that just faded into nothing, you know.
So after the initial release of the first album, did you guys ever second guess things? I mean, I know for myself, I make a lot of commercials, and sometimes if I don't get a lot of quick positive feedback, I fear I may have missed the mark, but often I just have to give them time. You guys kind of had that slow growing burn, no? Like, I mean, it kind of ramped up.
Yeah, definitely. Because when we had gone on to make the home album, we liked what we had done and everything. And our manager had said, you know, your people that like you have heard this other stuff, but I think maybe you could do a better job of Breakfast at Tiffany's. You need to re-record that probably. And I was like, you know, I've been thinking about the same thing. That was basically like a glorified demo. This is a little bit more real. Let's do that.
Well, plus you guys probably already had some inkling from your live shows that the song may have had some legs, no?
Yes. And we kept thinking too, but mention, you know, going back to what you were saying before about it being a slow burn, by the time we got a record deal, in my head, we were done. It wasn't going to happen, you know. Even we had sold tons of records as an indie. Our manager had gone around to all the labels, and they were like, yeah, it's great. I don't think it's going to work. You know, we got rejected by everybody. And so again, in my mind, it was like, well, we had a great run. It's been interesting, but it's probably going to be over in the next few months.
Now, was that the feeling when you guys were doing Home? Because I mean, Home really kind of sealed the deal and stamped you guys into 90s music history. I guess walk us through the creation of that album a little bit, and what was the feeling like in the studio?
Well, so we had made the 11th song. We played it, you know, for a year, and then it was just time. Well, we we made that record. Let's go make another one. So we got a club owner to co-sign a loan for us for $5,000 because he knew, well, if we play one show, if we don't pay him back, he'll just make us play a show and he'll keep the money. So
just
no
keep
risk.
work it off.
Yeah. So we made the record for $2,500, paid back the loan too quickly, ruined my credit for a while. But we just went in and it was just another indie record that we made, did it the exact same way, did it fairly quickly. And then didn't really like the way the mix was. So we got Dave Costello to remix it. And then we added Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that's when the ripples started a little bit, but again, even still, it was just another local release. It was nothing. And it wasn't until it found its way onto local radio that we really started selling. And then all those record companies came back around and wanted to sign us. But they still didn't get it. They only were signing us because we were selling so many. We were outselling everybody else, national records in Dallas. So that's why they signed us.
And this is kind of where the story kind of really takes off in my mind. So Breakfast at Tiffany's gets picked up, I think, on one of the biggest radio stations in the area, as I recall. And then if I'm correct, it all kind of started with people hearing the song, kind of in the background during some local radio segments, no?
Yeah. Well, so there's a club in town called Trees. And this goes back to what we were saying before. People went out to clubs. And so different clubs would advertise on the radio. This is who's playing this weekend. And we were a big draw. So they were advertising, Saturday night, Deep Blue something. And as they were saying it, they played a tiny bit of Breakfast at Tiffany's. And people just start calling the station. What the heck is that? What is that song that's on the Trees ad? And so they called our manager and said, hey man, we're adding the song. Like, people won't stop beating us to death about that Trees ad. And we didn't even know what they were talking about. And so they started playing it. This was The Edge. And then they officially added it. And then this other even bigger station, Q102, added it. And when that combination happened, we really started moving some units. And then other stations kind of around started picking it up as well. And there was a point in there that we actually debated whether we should even sign with a major, because it was happening. It's really risky because we had, no capital to push it or anything.
Yeah. And you got to deal with promotion and things. And that's where it really kicks in.
You had to make videos at the time because MTV still played videos.
Yep. And how surprised were you guys that it was Breakfast at Tiffany's that was the one that was just exploding in popularity? Or once you redid it, did you feel like it was going to have those legs?
We didn't know for sure, but we did know one thing, because a very similar thing had happened out in Lubbock. We had gone there's Lubbock's a college town out in West Texas. Texas Tech is there, and we had never played Lubbock before, and we were counting on our hands. Well, so we know so and so goes here, and she's going to bring 2 people, and then I think she knows this other guy. We were like, there'll be 5 or 6 people there. It's going to be fine. We'll just do our best, and maybe there'll be a couple of other people. And we pull up in Lubbock, and this was a full year before anything happened in Dallas. This was a whole year before. And we're like, oh man, there's lots of people around. That radio station's doing like a remote broadcast. Maybe some of these people will hear us sound checking. Maybe we can get 10 or 15 people there. This is going to be great. Well, what we didn't know was that this college radio station, KXT, for the same reason, because the club was advertising a show of this unknown band and they wanted 5 or 6 people to be there, had played a snippet. Some kid at the college station goes, hey, that's pretty cool. They start playing it. All of those people that were out on the street were waiting to get into our show. And we were just dumbfounded. Our first time, and it was slam packed. People were passing out. It was so hot in there.
Oh, geez.
And that's when we realized, oh, that's the power of a radio station. These people don't know us. They heard us on this tiny college station, and it's working like a son of a gun. So we had this really special relationship out in Lubbock, Texas, because they were ahead of the curve by a whole year. So we knew what could happen if it could just find its way.
Why do you think people took to the song like they did? Was it that hook, that ability, that sing-along hook? Or was there, or when people talk to you about the song, is it because maybe they have some, unintended association with it in some way, even though you didn't write it from personal experience?
Yeah, there's definitely some weird personal associations. I'll tell you about that in a second. I've tried to kind of figure it out because I like it. It's just fine. It's awesome. But I don't really.
It's only our biggest song. I like it. But
you know what I'm saying? Like I don't quite understand it from an analytical point of view.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that the beat and the singing are off time. And I said, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's what makes people want to jump up and down because it's always, you're jumping up on the upbeat. And I said, what about, and it somehow or other that translates. But for it being a breakup song, so many people have said, oh, that's our song. They've told me all kinds of interesting first experiences associated with that song. And I'm like, it's a breakup song. Like, that doesn't make sense. But sometimes people just associate it with, I don't know, their experiences, it being on the radio and it being loud. People always tell me how, man, I play that song so loud. I don't know. It's part of their soundtrack, I guess.
From there, the song skyrockets you guys into US and international charts. How did you guys first find out your song was charting across the globe?
Well, so it wasn't a fast process. Even in the United States, it was city by city. We would have to go to the cities and play in the lobby of the radio station and beg them to add it because there'd always be the program director going, guys, I love the song. I just don't think it fits our format or it doesn't fit the other songs we're playing because we were not grunge, but we also weren't like pop. We were in this weird nether region kind of thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, you had what? Matchbox 20, Train, Conic, Toad.
Toad the Wet Sprocket was a little ahead of us. And that was something, if we had a station that played them, that was cool. Matchbox 20 was later. Train was later. All those bands were kind of after.
So you were
because even still, even we did
that was 96, right? Was that 96?
Yeah.
I thought so.
It was, we didn't quite fit with the Dave Matthews crowd.
Nope.
And we didn't really fit with the Hootie and the Blowfish crowd because everybody kept thinking that we were, I don't know, the rumor was that we were Scottish. And we're like, we are as Texas as you can be. So the long and short of it is the United States was a slow process, which probably in the end really benefited us. So then we go, and then it's something's happening in Austria. We're going to fly you to Austria. You're going to do some promotion, and then we're going to go to Germany and see if we can get anything going. So it was Austria, and then it was fighting through Germany. Germany took off fairly quickly, and then we had to go to Sweden, and then Norway, and then all, you know what I'm saying? And so, and then it was, okay, Europe's going well. Something's wrong with England. We're sending you to China. So then we do a tour in China and in Malaysia and in the Far East. And so that's going crazy. And then we went back to Europe to kind of support some more. And then it was, we got a meeting with England. Something's wrong.
Is it true you're British fans for having to buy imported copies of your album and the song for a while?
Yes. So we sit down with the British label, and this was literally the phrase, congratulations on your success in the rest of the world.
Oh, jeez.
We just don't think it's going to work here. The British charts are dominated by British bands. It's Britpop. We just don't think it's going to work. Okay. And
you should have told me you were Scottish.
Yeah. Don't you know? And so my response was, look, no one is expecting, no one knows for sure. We're not going to be mad if it somehow doesn't work. It's okay. We thought that they were panicked because it had been so successful and maybe it wasn't going to be. And they're like, no, we're not going to release this. And we're going, you just said it's worked in the rest of the world. Like, we're number 2 in Iceland right now, in Israel. And you think it's not going to work to the point that you don't want to bother releasing this? And then they're like, yeah. And then that meeting was over and we flew back to Sweden. to pick up our tour, just confused as we could possibly be. And then a couple of weeks go by and we get a call. They're going to put the record out. The kids have been buying import CDs from Germany. It's forcing their hand. They're going to have to release it. And so they finally released it half-heartedly, which is why it didn't debut at number 1. It debuted at 3 and then went 3, 2, 1. Yeah. And so that's the kind of mentality we were up against. You know?
I mean, the band then ended up having this popularity in the UK. Mm-hmm. And did you guys then get to go after that and experience that popularity firsthand? Or since you had already been to that part of the world, I mean, in other words, did you then go back overseas to England to experience it firsthand or no?
No, that was really the strangest thing. So we go number 1. We'd been on top of the pops like 5 times. But because of the way the schedule was, the American label was like, you've been gone for 2 years. You got to come home and start working on another record. So we went number 1 in the UK. We only played there 3 times total, and 2 of which were before the record came out. And then we played one night, the night that the record was released. That's it. So we never did this triumphant tour of this country. It was so, but in the same way, like, you know, we to this day, for whatever reason, we've never played Australia, and it's been one of our biggest countries this whole time. We've never been there.
So in those days, the band was doing these tours and to thousands of fans across the globe. What touring memory sticks out the most? I mean, was there a particular crowd or a fan encounter, something backstage, or something else entirely?
Two of the wildest things were like part of our first shows there. We showed up in Vienna, and we were supposed to do it. It was us and Santana at this horse race track in Vienna. And our gear was stuck in customs in England. And so like we're supposed to be on in an hour. It's Sunday evening, and they're having to like beg shop owners to open up a store so that we can rent instruments, you know, so we get all this stuff to be able to play. And then we get this word, Santana wants to play before you. Like, that's weird, but okay, it's their show. And we didn't know there was this massive storm coming in, and I guess Carlos had a vision. So they play, they leave, our borrowed gear is up on stage, we start playing, and I mean the bottom drops out, ruins all of the gear. The PA is swinging, it's like pandemonium. We go backstage, the label has to buy all this gear, and it's like, well, it's just what happens. You need to go to Amsterdam because that's where your gig is tomorrow. So we fly to Amsterdam, and our gear is supposed to meet us there. But guess where our gear goes? Our gear goes to Vienna. So we're now in Amsterdam with the same problem. But it's a festival. We're first on the bill, like the very first band on this bill. And we think, dude, there'll be a couple of thousand people maybe. So we do the same thing. We figure out, we get borrowed instruments. We walk out there. It is packed. Like it is the biggest crowd I have ever seen in my life. They estimate between 200 and 400,000 people.
So it's Woodstock.
Oh, dude, it is. And they are there because they have heard us and they want to see these dudes from Texas. And we're up there with instruments that barely work. Toby's playing a pink Stratocaster that he can hardly keep in tune. It was, but we were so incensed and angry about the gear situation that it was just head down, just hammering through this set. And the crowd thought it was the greatest thing they had ever seen.
The rain story is funny because it reminds me, I actually went to Woodstock 94 and
with all the mud. Yeah.
And the funny thing is I'm from Woodstock. I went to Woodstock Elementary School. So when everybody was sleeping in the mud at night, we just went back and I slept on my mom's sofa.
Nice.
But the Rollins band, they got hit by a thunderstorm in the middle of it, and they just stayed out. And and Henry just kept getting harder. And as it rained harder, he played harder. It was almost like that Prince Super Bowl rain, situation. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the whole time you're thinking somebody's getting electrocuted here.
Yeah, because that's the thing. So we weren't using, because we were on borrowed, we weren't using any wireless units. Mm-hmm. So we were completely tethered to everything. And that's when things get really dicey.
Yeah.
So in those first 2 days in Europe, it was chaos. But those are the ones that stand out in my mind, just because you just find a way to make it happen, you know. And that part of the touring life is fun. The other parts are not so fun.
Well, I like asking musicians this question. What song, whether it be yours or someone else's, whether it be a cover, whatever, gives you the absolute most joy to either play or listen to?
As far as playing live, we have a song called Daybreak and a Candle End, and it's very difficult to play. And so as far as one of our songs, that's the one I like the most. It's very much, it shows kind of our Rush influence a lot. But as far as listening, the one that I'm just in awe of is a song by Alphaville called Forever Young.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been in tons of...
I want to be for... Yeah.
I think that there's never been enough said about how perfect that song is, and how poignant and how amazing, and how it captures kind of the essence of the 80s Cold War paranoia and fear. Like, every time I hear it, I'm just like, that song is astounding, right? That's one of those ones. I just heard that the other day and I thought, yep, this one holds for sure.
A bit of personal band trivia. What did you guys consider to be your hometown? Was it Denton or somewhere else?
Denton, yeah. Just because that's where we formed. That's where we all met each other. You know, we still say that we're a Denton band.
And I love the fact that you've all said before the band never broke up. You guys just stopped playing. Yeah. I actually love the thought behind that. What led to that scenario for the band? And are you guys doing, I know you said something earlier that made me think that maybe there's something on the horizon now.
Yeah, what really happened was we just started having kids. That was for me, you know, when my son was born, your perspective changes. And we had done everything that we had ever set out to do. And there were issues with the record companies, and music had changed. And we're like, well, we're not Christina Aguilera and we're not Limp Bizkit. Maybe our time has kind of come. We don't hate each other. We haven't, you know, blown through the money on Ferraris and cocaine. You know, let's maybe let this kind of be what it is. And so it just kind of stopped. Every once in a while we would go out and play a gig or something. But around 2018, we did an EP and we really had fun with that. And since then, every year, 6 months or so, we've just been putting out a song here and there. We actually just had one come out last Friday. And we've just been playing shows just for fun. And so it's very much like back to those indie days. We've got no responsibility. We don't answer to anybody. We just do exactly what we want to do. And that keeps it fun.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Pipes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's our show for tonight. A special thanks to Todd Pipes of Deep Blue Something for joining us. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone.